Guardiola is a very unique manager. One of the most common traits of the legendary managers in the past has been their ability to find ways to come through several challenges and changing times. For instance, Sir Alex Ferguson assembled 4 different Manchester United squads during his 26-year reign at the club. The great Scot's ability to adapt to a changing landscape was the reason why he was able to enjoy such longevity at one club. And today we have Pep Guardiola doing just that. The Spanish tactician was presented with a big challenge last season, but has responded to it in great style this season. Real Madrid are apparently trying to get hold of a Barcelona player who hasn't signed a new deal at Camp Nou. They wouldn't do that, would they? Absolutely nothing is going well for Tottenham Hotspur, who are still struggling under new manager Antonio Conte. Barcelona are keeping a close eye on a Bayern Munich player who is set to become a free agent this summer. There's something happening with Frenkie de Jong that needs to be addressed. But before we get started, we want to share the sponsor of today's video. The OneFootball app is the ultimate football platform and is a must-have for every football fan, so that you can follow all of your favourite leagues, teams and players all the time right from your phone. You can be sure to turn on notifications for specific players to be instantly alerted when they score a goal or when they're involved in other breaking news. It is the best and easiest way to stay up to date with everything football. Click the link in the description down below to download the app right now. You won't regret it. The general trend at Barcelona is one of optimism. After the Spanish Super Cup game, the Catalans believed they were on the level of their bitter rivals Real Madrid, and even before that, the fans predicted a bright future for their club. And for good reason. With young players such as Pedri, Gavi, Ansu Fati or Nico Gonzalez, the Blaugrana team has enough raw talent to return to the top. The young people of the club are also very often praised and put at the heart of the project. But in the middle of all these young players, there is one player, a little older than the players mentioned, but still relatively young, who escapes this wave of positivity. It is Frenkie de Jong. Yet seen as the new boss of the Barcelona midfield for the next decade, when he arrived in Catalonia 2 years ago, the former Ajax man no longer seems to really convince people in Barcelona. Already, it must be said, because he has not always been at his best on the pitch. If he was never one of the weak links in the team, he also rarely managed to help raise the team's performances. Even if the general context has never really put him in the best conditions, since his arrival, people are still generally unsatisfied. And in recent weeks, there has been more and more talk of a sale. The player commands a good transfer value, which would allow the club to move for players like Erling Haaland. And if he leaves, the Spaniards have Gavi, Pedri and Nico Gonzalez waiting in the wings. There seems to be a bit of toxicity around him, with media being too critical and harsh on him. The same media outlets that welcomed his arrival are now pushing him towards the exit door and are creating this campaign which will see the young Dutchman leave the club. But then again, we've seen that all before, haven't we? For a time interested in Antonio Rudiger, Real Madrid are now looking at a promising Barcelona defender, Ronald Araujo. Will the transfer window damage the cordial understanding between Real Madrid and Barcelona? Hand in hand when it came to defending the European Super League project, the two historic rivals had calmed the game between them for a while. Rivals, of course, but first and foremost, gentlemen. Except that this pact could be shattered soon. For the first time in quite some time, Los Blancos and La Blaugrana are indeed targeting several common targets on the transfer market. One of them is Erling Haaland. Real Madrid dream of associating the Norwegian with Kylian Mbappe, while the Blaugrana absolutely want to recruit a world star just to demonstrate that they still exist. But this is another issue that could further ignite the powder. AS relays information from the Sin Concesiones program, which affirms that the boss of the league leaders, Florentino Perez, would like to steal Ronald Araujo from Barcelona. The desire of the Madrid businessman to strengthen his rear guard is not new, since Real were also keen on Antonio Rudiger. The 22-year-old Uruguayan defender is under contract until 2023, and no extension has been signed yet. Considered one of the best youngsters of the club, Araujo is far from being unknown to Madrid, since Perez had tried to recruit him in 2018, before the former resident of Boston River ended up choosing Barcelona. Lately, his agent, Flavio Perchman, announced that he was due to meet the Catalan leaders before the end of 2021, but Barca had other things to deal with in the meantime. At the end of the contract at Bayern Munich next summer, Niklas Sule could go to the English Premier League, but Barca are waiting in the wings and intend to play a nasty trick on the Bavarian club by recovering the German international for no cost. He's a German international, he's a player we want to have in our team. In the current health situation, it always depends on what the player is asking for. We have been clear with Alaba, we have certain limits. This is what Oliver Kahn said last December about Niklas Sule. It must be said that the Austrian international, who finally refused to extend at Bayern to go to Real Madrid, the 26-year-old German defensive rock is at the end of his contract and in a strong position to negotiate a new deal. Despite his undisputed starting status in the Nationalmannschaft and 23 matches played with Bayern since the start of the season, the former Hoffenheim defender does not seem so inclined to extend an adventure started in Munich in the summer of 2016, enough to arouse the interest of many English clubs who are already eyeing this great summer affair. While the Premier League currently might have the favour of the German international, a new courtier has just been added to the battle. In search of reinforcements at a lower cost, the free agent status of Niklas Sule, as well as his profile, would greatly please the Catalan club, as Bild indicates. It remains to be seen what the player thinks of this. The prospect of a starting place in a breathless Barca defence in search of renewal could be an ideal rebound for the Bayern defender. There is no doubt that the presence at the club of Marc-Andre ter Stegen, his teammate in the German national team, could help him in his adaptation to Spain. Between disappointing results and a transfer window that has not taken off, the atmosphere is not looking good at Spurs. Eliminated from the Carabao Cup by Chelsea, the Spurs have once again shown that they have difficulty facing the big English sides. Enough to reinforce Antonio Conte in his analysis of his team just after the first leg against the Blues, which also put the Italian in the spotlight lately. Indeed, after having drawn up this observation without mincing words, the Italian tactician publicly asked his president, Daniel Levy, to take out his checkbook and strengthen his team. Not easy in a second-hand market that closes in just over 2 weeks. However, Conte is far from flawless. The Daily Mail announces that the Italian state of grace is over in the media. The reason is quite simple. Despite a workforce to be reinforced, observers expected a more striking Conte effect. And that's not all. Already faced with concerns to strengthen, Conte has obviously not convinced Harry Kane to change his mind. Frustrated by his real false start at Man City last summer, the English striker would still like to pack up. Finally, the English tabloid concludes by saying that several players will be worried in view of this whole situation. To put it simply, faced with this sad record, many fear that Conte will slam the door shut when he walks out. Both Pep Guardiola and Thomas Tuchel are like chess masters, working intensely on tactics and trying to outthink one another. The German tactician stood toe-to-toe with his Spanish counterpart when he was at Bayern Munich. Guardiola arrived in Germany at a time when Borussia Dortmund were the team to beat. A few years later, the Bavarians were winning things, and winning in style, we have to add. Then came Manchester City, where Guardiola embarked upon creating a legacy. There is no challenger until a certain Jurgen Klopp entered the fray. Liverpool conquered Europe and won the league, and we all thought that there was finally a manager who could make Guardiola obsolete. The next season, Guardiola won the Premier League. During that season, though, there was another big test. Thomas Tuchel had arrived at Chelsea, and the German tactician showed a lot of us how a Guardiola side can be beaten. His tactics were spot on and caused so much panic that Pep decided to start the Champions League final with no defensive midfielder. It was a bewildering decision, to be honest, and we all know how that panned out. The Blues won the final and headed into the current campaign as favourites. And this is where things changed. City did not buy a striker after it was confirmed that Tottenham won't be selling Harry Kane. And that didn't matter. The citizens have been in fine form this season, and if we look at the table right now, the title is theirs to lose. Chelsea, who started so well, have withered and not been playing as well as they were a couple of months ago. All teams have faced similar challenges in recent months, but Guardiola has adapted to the situation much better, which is why the citizens are where they are right now. Tuchel, on the other hand, is now feeling the heat. This is his most testing period as Chelsea manager, and this is where his team's title credentials will be outlined. Guardiola, on the other hand, has once again shown that he isn't just any other manager. The gauntlet was thrown at him and he decided to run it and show his latest adversary how it's done.